Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Ryan's Gate Chicago. Tonight, our headline is, well, it's March 10th, 2026. Our headline story is talking about a mother that had a press conference today saying that her son is being held against his will at Wyman Gordon Pavilion, which is the psych ward as a part of Ingalls Hospital here in Harvey. It's like right by my house, actually. So let me just get that together, and I will play. I made a clip, of all the of the footage of that from today, and I'll start that playing for us. 1 second. Okay, here we go.
I've been here every moment fighting for my son. I'm Lynn Jones Greer. My son is Demetri Jones. He has been held in Wyman Gordon against his will. Everything that they've told us to do in order for him to be discharged, we've done. Every time there's a document or paperwork, they put obstacles in our way. He was kidnapped and taken from me in Ingalls University of Chicago emergency room. He was basically taken from me and I was pushed out of the emergency room. Not once, but twice. When I went to check on my son, the day he came in Thursday, he came in on a Thursday around 5 o'clock. And by the time 3 o'clock in the morning came, he was basically taken from me and I did not see my son again until Sunday. Every power of attorney, every medical power of attorney, every patient right, every human right, every mother's right next to kin has been violated and refused. Demetri has signed documents that he no longer wants their care. He refuses services. It's been ignored. Power of attorney has been ignored. Next of kin has been ignored. And still they have repeated, continuing testing on him, drawing blood, giving him medication against my orders, against his will. We came here yesterday to see if he would be discharged because they asked us to sign a document for discharge and they still did not discharge him.
And I'm Clay. I'm the brother of Demetri Jones here in support here at the Wyman Gordon Center in Harvey, Illinois. We're here on behalf in support of Demetri. There are things that the staff has illegally done, fraudulently done without consent. And at this point, it's beyond unlawful and illegal. If this is one of your family members in a situation where they were medically kidnapped without consent, fraudulent paperwork, and fraudulent documents presented by the nursing staff and the Ingalls Hospital, where it is a procedure that is illegal, and along with the security guards that are in cahoots with the Harvey police, where even if calling Harvey police, you cannot get assistance. That's a high risk. So if you can't even have the police present when you're in an endangered situation, this is not only risky for our brother, but then any other family members that are in the community within Cook County and Harvey, Illinois. This is a matter that should be addressed and aware by all family members. It definitely should be shared, and it will be shared, and this will be corrected. And the individuals, along with the nursing staff, police, Ingalls Hospital, Wyman Gordon Center, will all be addressed for this fraudulent and illegal matter that keeps continuing to go on. And I'm definitely in support of here, Demetri, and this will be corrected and addressed.
Minister Amir A.H. Shakur, leader of the Thorn Township Citizens Action Committee, president of Freedom First International. We're standing here today to send a resounding message to the community that, first of all, this healthcare facility behind us, Wyman Gordon, is not doing the right thing by the people. There's been multiple reports from community members for a long time now of abuse to the patients, mistreatment of the patients, things that we're hearing, ungodly things like dosing the patients, making them sign medical releases. We want to draw attention to this. We want to draw a contrast to what it is. We're not going to stand down. We want to bring as much attention to this, not only just on a city, but a state level and even on a national level. The healthcare facility here is in question. We are saying right now, Wayman Gordon, release this loved one. If you haven't done the right thing, then it's going to be noticed. It's going to be notated and accounted for, because here's the thing. Relentless, it starts from here on out. So we're saying to you guys, let's stand up. Let's do the right thing, especially in this case. And then going back forward, there has to be a level of accountability when you've acted outside of public interest to the community. We won't stop.
Hey everybody, my name is Ryan Cymbalski. I'm with the Harvey Historical Society and a local journalist here that lives in Harvey. So I was recently informed that there was an incident with a young man who is still being held behind me.
And I'm sorry, I don't know why. You know, it doesn't look like it was bright, but it was very bright. And so it looks like I have my eyes closed. Sorry, it looks weird.
And of course, I'm very concerned because what I'm being told is that he was held and medicated against his will, and it sounds like procedures were not followed properly. So we just really want resolution and clarity and transparency on this. That's, you know, we just want the right thing to be done. We're not trying to make enemies of the hospital or, you know, any officials in Harvey at all. We want to work this out amicably, but obviously, as you can see behind me, family, friends are not happy. So we need everybody, all the parties that can make the decisions, to come to the table to bring a resolution to this and make sure things are being done correctly.
Hi, my name is Ramona Adair, and I am a citizen of Harvey. And I would like to say we have so much corruption in Harvey that it is time for us to come together and support each other in these kinds of things. And we never know if it's going to happen to one of us. We must stand up. We must speak out. We must speak about the corruption that is going on in Harvey.
I've been a nurse for over 50 years, and it's inappropriate for them to do it. My name is Cheryl Street, and I'm a friend of the family. And I really hate what they're doing this. This is against the law.
He has had scrapes on his knees. He's in a wheelchair. He didn't come in here in a wheelchair. He told me he had bruises.
Hey, Elisha, is that you, Lynn? Just let me know if that's you. I'm gonna put the link to come up. I'll share that right now. Okay, great. Yeah, so after the video, Lynn, after we're done with the video, you just click on that, and then that will, you know, bring up your browser. It'll ask you to give your permission for your camera and your audio, and then that way we can interview you after we're done with the video.
On his chest and his neck. He didn't come in here like that.
That's
so
right.
Things are happening here. And I'm at a
And what did they tell you?
15 vials of blood was drawn.
15.
15 vials.
And during how length of
He
time?
was here probably 2 hours.
Okay. Oh.
And he came in for a high heart rate and high blood pressure and possibly AFib and dehydration. So that much blood should have never been drawn on him. I'm a medical person, so I'm very much aware. Nobody knew what happened to his clothes. No one knew what happened to a bag of clothes that I left at the ER. So now I'm bringing him a change of clothes. I don't agree with him being here, but I do need my son to have some clean clothes because they won't give him any clothes.
Wow.
So again, if you're just joining us, this is Ryan with Ryan's Chicago, and for my TikTokers, so this is my nightly news update that we're doing. So the story this evening is that there is a local mother here from the South End, the Chicago South End, who says her son is being held against his will in Harvey at Wyman Gordon Pavilion, which is where the psych ward is for Ingalls Hospital. So that is what we're discussing. I'm explaining a little bit more for you guys on TikTok, since I know you can't see it. I will figure out how to link them, but although this is my backup account anyway, because I was having problems with my main account on TikTok, but eventually I'm going to try to link them so they can go to all the platforms at once. And let me see, we should have our mother is here with us. So thank you for joining us, Lynn. So this is Dimitri's mother. We wish you were on for happier reasons. But
Yes, thank you.
we spoke with you and the family and some friends and those that were supporters today about your son. So again, let's just start with this all happened on what's today? Tuesday? So last Thursday, just last Thursday?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, can you just walk us through a little bit of what happened? It sounds like it was something relatively, hopefully routine. You're just going to the emergency room, and then how does it develop into the situation as it is now?
Well, my son he was being treated and under doctor's care for high blood pressure. And, I was monitoring his vital signs for the week prior. He actually went to emergency room the previous night and he was released. And so I was still concerned with his vital signs. So he went into the Ingles emergency room via an ambulance and he arrived there at around 5 o'clock on Thursday. That was the 5th, I believe, right? And so once he was there, within the first maybe 20 minutes of being there, of course, I walked to the ER. He went by ambulance. I walked to the ER. He was aware and he was talking to me. We were having a conversation. He was able to sit up on the bed, go to the washroom. He talked to the care sitters that were sitting in the ER, and he was talking. He was ambulating. He within the first 20 minutes, again, he was dehydrated. He had a high heart rate, high blood pressure. So they drew 15 vials of blood on him. They did 5 first, then they came back and did 5 more. And even at that point, I said, you all are drawing a lot of blood, drawing out of blood. So, and then they proceeded to ask me, like, in so many words, who I am. And I told them what I do. He then
Let me stop you there then, because not only are you the mom, hey guys, hey, thanks for saying hello. Hi, Sarah, thank you for joining us. Not only are you Dimitri's mom, but you also have power of attorney, which gives you an extra level of authority as far as making medical decisions for him if he needs that. Is that correct?
I am power of attorney. I am medical power of attorney. When it comes to human and patient rights, I am also next of kin. So I did make a statement about they were drawing a lot of blood. There was 3 guys. And before they started to draw the blood, there was a lady who came up to me and she said she was his nurse in the ER today. And it's funny that same lady they did not recognize as being a nurse at the time on staff, because I had 3 different individuals come up to me and say that at different points throughout the night. There was 3 guys walking around. One of the guys, he by 2 other guys. The 2 other guys out of the 3 guys say he was a instructor. He was a paramedic instructor. But the 3rd guy, who was I guess teacher of them, when he stated he was my son's nurse and he ordered them to draw all the blood from my son. Okay, and he was the one who questioned me because I was asking them why they were drawing so much blood within a short amount of time. Then he was the one who also, he asked me, he said he's my son's nurse. And mind you, this was in about the 2nd hour of my son being there. He said he was my son's nurse. And then he asked me what happened. I explained, as I just explained to you all, that I had took my son prior the night before, what he was given at that time. And so he said, okay, after he drew the blood, that he was going to give my son a shot of the same medication, right? That's what he said the medication was. Now, mind you, my son was talking. He was sitting up, all of that. Now, after they gave him that first injection, he started to get drowsy. His thinking, so I could see the effects of whatever they gave him the first time within the first 2 hours. My son, the way the ER was set up, they have the cubicles, but there were a lot of patients sitting outside of the cubicles. Then my son was moved. About the third hour, my son was moved into a unit, a cubicle. And I didn't think before at the time, because I didn't think anything was going to happen like this. But he was moved into the cubicle, and on the cubicle type that he was moved into, it didn't have any outlets. It didn't have any other TVs or anything. It was just like an empty room. And now that I'm looking back, hindsight, and I think about it, that was the room you would put a psych patient in, a holding
Mm.
unit in the ER.
And the whole time this was happening, Lynn, what was the justification that the hospital staff was giving you? Because you had power of attorney for him. Let's just say if he were in a state where he wasn't able to decide how he wanted his care, what justifications were they giving in the emergency room for continuing to do all the blood tests that you were saying this is excessive, for the injections that you were wondering why do you need to do this? What would the staff tell you as far as the reasoning why they kept doing this?
Well, let me say too, I'm an allied healthcare professional of almost 30 years, so I was very well aware. I'm also allied healthcare instructor, a phlebotomy medical assistant and medical administrative assistant, so I know exactly what was going on. Okay, so I just want to say that first. Okay,
right? Because you would know way more than me going in, exactly. Because I would still ask questions too. I always tell people to do that when you go to the hospital. Ask questions. You should understand everything that's going on. They should never do something, pushing you to do something that you don't consent to or that you don't understand. Like, I know enough to advise people on that, but you actually know above and beyond, because you have experience with giving injections and doing other medical things. So, and they were still pushing you off.
Yeah. So basically, when they were drawing the blood, I said, "Hey, don't." They were going to come back again and get some more blood. I said, "No." I said, "That's too much blood. Why are you all drawing so much blood?" And okay, well, we have to do some tests. I said, "Well, I would like to see tests. Whatever you're doing, can you please make sure that you document it? Because I would like to see what you're doing. I want the results, So I was saying things like that. I wasn't aggressive. I was assertive. Okay, and it wasn't disrespectful, condescending. That's a human right. Just like you just said, Ryan, you as a patient and also a POA or next of kin, especially if your loved one may not be in the best way to be responsive for their own health care. The next of kin and the person with it, that's a patient right and a human right. You have the authority, right? So I want to state this first and foremost, that all those formalities, the patient right, the human right, the next of kin, me being the biological mother, the POA, all that was taken away from me. And I'll explain a little bit of that. I sat with my son after the third hour in the room they took him to. The room was 11, unit 11. Again, hindsight, I realized the type of room now that was. I sat with my son from maybe around 7 p.m. all the way to 3 something in the morning. Oh, but let me say this. Before that time, when we went into the room around 7 o'clock, there was a lady who came by. She was a behavioral health specialist. Her name was Jace, right? And when she came in, it wasn't, how you are entered into a hospital or, ER, the patient liaison will come and ask you some questions. Patient liaison or patient advocate. Well, that person never came. She was a behavioral health specialist. And when she walked into the room, she introduced herself. She said where she came from. And I'm like, why would a behavioral health specialist come in? She said, I'm going to ask you all 10 questions. She said, you, Demetri, mom, you can answer it, or Demetri can answer it. So Demetri answered a few questions. I answered a few questions. Some questions he did not answer. The reason he didn't answer because her questions were invasive. Like she wanted to know the address of where he worked, the address of where he lived. And he was aware, sitting on the edge of the bed at the time she was there, right? So he didn't answer them. And I stated to her in that moment, I said, he did not answer the questions, and I'm not going to answer them for him because he didn't answer them because he didn't want to answer them for you. The whole time when he was answering her questions, she was texting on the phone. She even made a statement to me like, oh, I'm just texting a friend or something like that, she said, right? She's still texting from the beginning. So this, to me, this was all planned. It was a planned agenda because I watch everything. She then asked me to come outside the room to discuss Demetri's answers. When I stepped outside the room, the unit 11, Demetri was in. This was at the back of the ER, right? All the way on the opposite side of the way you enter in the back. She
That's what I
said,
was going to ask you because I've been in Ingles ER, so it's that first floor. You know, like they take you past the security, you know, and you're there, and then you have the area where the desks are kind of in the center, and then the little rooms are
right,
all the way around. So it was like somewhere
yes,
sort of on the edge of that floor, like you have to go.
yes,
Okay,
all the way to the opposite wall, right? And
okay.
so she said, she stated to me, she said, Demetri didn't answer any questions. And I was like, what are you saying? He did answer the questions. He answered most of the questions and I answered some. So how are you? She said, well, I don't want to put anybody in the hospital. I don't like to put anybody in the hospital, but he didn't answer any questions. And the ER doctor thinks he should be admitted under psych. I said, what? He didn't even come in here for that. I said, he came in here for elevated blood pressure, heart rate. And why would he be admitted under psych? I said, you a liar. You a liar. Before I even noticed, there was a security guard behind me and there was a security guard in front of me, and they pushed me out the ER from
And then
the back area of the ER.
and just explain to us. So again, you guys had already been there for several hours. They had taken too much blood. You complained about that.
Mhm.
They were giving the injections. You had complained about that. I mean, had they given you any sort of excuse or explanation before that point to say, oh, well, we feel that his behavior is erratic or something, to explain why they were doing all of this? Or
So
was
let
that
me say, I'm missing a
first
few
time?
parts. So I'm missing a few parts. So I want to go back a little bit. So before they pushed me out the ER,
Mhm.
there were a few incidents that were happening. I'll tell you about those, which actually it confirmed what was going on here. But before they pushed me out the ER, there was a gentleman that he was an older gentleman. He was sitting there, and I'm hearing his voice. It was very low, and he was going, "Leave me alone. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. Why you all messing with me? Blah blah blah." So it became a whole issue with him where they actually restrained him.
Oh,
His room was actually, I mean, he was sitting outside of Demetri's room. So they restrained that gentleman. I don't know what happened to him. Okay. That was like a distraction. At the time, the behavioral specialist had brought me out the room. I went back and Demetri jumped up. He jumped up at the time when he heard it. So he wasn't incoherent. He was responsive at the time. He knew I was out there. So he was worried about me.
mm.
I went back into the room with him and I told him, calm down, everything is okay, I'm fine. Where a lady, she was a nurse. Her badge said Susan. Her badge read Susan, but she introduced herself under another name.
Oh yeah, that
Okay.
that would that would be that would certainly raise a red flag for me.
She said, I'm Susan. This is a third person now. She said, I'm his nurse for the night. I said, there's been two other people who said they're the nurse. How are you his nurse on the same shift? I've only been here 3 or 4 hours.
Mm.
Right? That's what she
Right.
said. And she said, well, I heard you're his medical power of attorney. I heard your power of attorney. Do you have the document? I said, why would I carry the document on me? I said, I am his medical power of attorney. I'll get it to you once, we leave. I said, I'll get the information to you. I don't walk around carrying that. She said, well, if you don't have it, you can't show it to me, you'll have to leave. And they put me out the emergency room. Now, I do want to tell you all one other thing that happened. It is not directly related to Demetri, but it just confirms what was going on here. There was a lady. There was a lady who I was also hearing her voice when around the time they were drawing Demetri's blood, and the lady was talking low. I could hear her voice saying, "Touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me," getting louder and louder and louder. And
No.
when I told her where she
Hold
was,
on 1 second, then you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if anything changed, but it doesn't look like you've moved.
no.
Let's see. Okay, sorry. Try again.
When I looked in the direction of what was happening, she was standing up. There was the same little guy who's supposed to have been a nurse, but he was a paramedic teacher. He was putting his hand on her shoulder and her arm and pushing her back. And she was talking, don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me. Next thing I know, she was surrounded by people. She hit the floor. They dragged her and put her on the bed. And when I looked where Demetri was like kind of cat corner from her, she was asleep. So they gave her something. Now, and that's before they moved him back into Unit 11. So I'm seeing this stuff going on. I'm medically aware of the things that they're trying to do to him until they put me out the ER. I didn't say anything about those things, but I'm paying attention because in my mind right now, I'm like, no, I'm getting ready to get my son out of here. We're getting ready to rock out of here because I'm seeing all this stuff going on. But
Yeah, that's crazy.
But what happened when they put me out of the ER? They gave him 2 more injections.
When
now,
I just have to ask why. I started interrupting him, but at no point you said he was having maybe some heart irregularities or something, but at no point did you describe him as being belligerent or agitated, or it sounds like he was actually fairly quiet. So I don't understand. Did they give you any justification for why they would be forcibly medicating him with sedatives? It sounds like they were sedatives. Like
they were sedatives.
Because I don't understand. Because I don't know if you're aware, well, you probably know, but there was an incident, a high-profile incident with the Harvey resident, Melissa Crawley, last summer, where she was very upset, and reasonably so, because she had been unlawfully arrested by the mayor because she was criticizing him. So they had given her, when she was brought to Ingalls by Harvey police, they had given her the excuse of saying, she was quote unquote crazy or whatever, because she was upset. Like something in that case, I could see, I'm not saying that was right what they did, but I could see at least, all right, on paper, that was the justification they used. But in this case, there was he was accompanied by his mother. There was no conflict. There was no argument. And you said he seemed very calm. So I just don't understand the reasoning for all these sedatives.
That's good. Yes, that's good. Check this out. There was no reason. He wasn't reacting in any kind of way. He wasn't aggressive. Nothing going on. In hindsight, even at the time, my senses were up because I was seeing a lot of things going on around me and the way they were handling things. I requested his lab results. I said, before you all continue to do anything, I want his lab results. When I told them what he was given the day before at a previous emergency room, they turned around and said that's what they were giving him. Matter of fact, let me say this. What he was given, they said that he was given Resivir, right? So when I mentioned it to any of the personnel, they act like they didn't know what that was.
Now, what is that medication for typically? What is that?
Resivir, right? So a lot that, it can be used for a lot of different things, but some of that is, that particular medication, they were given that during COVID. Right. And then because it could be used for a lot of different things, it could be a psychotic drug. It just depends. Resivir is actually they give to ADHD patients to calm them down, believe it or not. So it makes them really sluggish. That's what he told me.
It's a sedative of some sort.
Yes. The guy actually told me that. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, that's when I mentioned I'm his medical power of attorney. I would like to make sure that I'm getting the test results and I'm getting information. I want to know what you all are giving him. Right. I said, because he does have high blood pressure. He does have a high heart rate. At one point I'm for HIPAA. I'm not really trying to put all this out, but you all need to know the story. And so I was concerned of medications interacting. So this is why I was saying what I was saying. Now, when they put me out of the ER, I went and started making calls to attorneys because how things were done. I went and started making calls to attorneys. I'm making all kind of calls. I finally called down to 53rd in Maryland to the main hospital. I tried to reach the higher administrator's office, and I did get someone in that office. And so what they did was turn around and call down to the emergency room. I explained to them what happened. They didn't like what they heard, so they ended up making a call to the charge nurse. They said, I'm going to tell her to come out and talk to you because I was on the phone with them. The charge nurse comes out. She says her name is, and I have all the names written down. So when she said she's the charge nurse, and I'm saying, well, why am I just now seeing you? She said, I actually saw what happened. I sent my nurse over. She said, now, mind you, I said the lady's name was Susan. She said, I sent Sarah over there. I said, that's not the lady that came over there. She said, her name is Sarah. I said, it's not. I saw her badge.
Yeah,
This is relevant. I'm trying to tell you all how important this is.
Yeah, why would you not use the name that is on your badge? Isn't that the whole purpose of a name badge?
So this is what I'm gonna tell you all. This whole experience, every time they say a person is on the case, or every time you need to speak to a person, or every time you even ask to speak to a person, they will tell you someone's name, someone else will come out. They'll state their position, and they won't even be in position. If they told me once, and this has been going on for days, I noticed they have their badges turned around. They have their last name taped over. If they say they're the charge nurse for the night, they'll come out with their badge turned over. If I knew the charge nurse name prior, it'll be a different person that comes out. So it's a lot of collusion. It's a lot of evasiveness. It's a lot of secrecy and veiled information and veiled identities. That's what's been happening. Now, it wasn't only happening at the ER, it's been happening at Wyman Gordon as well. Okay. Yes. So why would all of that have to happen if you're in a publicly profited facility and people are covering up their names, taping up their names, hiding their identities? The people that are supposed to be in charge are not coming out, but their Lord administrators are. So it's a lot of things like that are going on. Nevertheless, the charge nurse came out. She talked to me, and she said, I saw what was happening, but I really did. I was paying attention, but I really wasn't. Some lame excuse, right? So she brings me back. She brings me back into the where Dimitri was in Unit 11. That was probably around 9-ish p.m. or so, right? I sit there with my son who's asleep now. When they put me out, they gave him 2 more injections, right?
And I at this point, I still am not understanding why he was being given any sedatives. Because, like I said, it's not even like Melissa's situation where he didn't even come in upset. So I just don't understand that. It just doesn't seem right.
Listen, they didn't know his medical history. They didn't care that I was telling him that he was he could possibly be stroking out, pre-stroke. He could possibly be in some pre-cardiac, myocardial infarction. He could be having an epileptic seizure. They weren't caring about the clinical end because they were already thinking about their agenda. Right? Their agenda was to put him in, give him a psych diagnosis so they can add bodies to their structured agenda. That's why they did it. Because when I asked before they tried to put me out, I asked the nurse, I said, at this point, my son is being given medication. He's had 15 vials of blood drawn. We've been sitting here for hours, and you all have not given me any of his test results. They didn't like that.
Right.
So
nothing, if you're asking that nothing about that is unreasonable.
They didn't like it. And basically, well, we're not giving you anything. This is what I was told. If you can't prove you're his medical power of attorney, how old is he? What's his age? He can make his own decisions. For somebody who was in a bed that you medicated with psych drugs, can't be responsive, and you take my rights as a mother. You take my rights as a power of attorney, legal power of attorney, his human rights away and his patient rights away, and you kick me out and you drug him.
Yeah, none of it just adds up, none of it makes sense.
Oh, it adds up. It adds up to foul play. It adds up to being illegal. It adds up to abuse of rights. It adds up to a lot of things that are not legally sound or medically sound. That's what it adds up to. And they knew they did the wrong thing. And at this point, they didn't care because they still operated in lawlessness and illegalness and just doing whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah, that's so crazy. And then you would call. Now you said you called the main hospital in Hyde Park. They contacted the charge nurse, but they still weren't backing down. So then what happened next? Now, at that point, did they transfer him to the actual psych ward at the Wyman Gordon Pavilion?
So what happened was, at this point, I was actually calling. I was making those calls when I was outside, because when they put me out, they were basically like, the doctor, they said because he didn't answer the questions, the doctor's going to admit him under psych. That's what they told me. And they put me out, right? So at this
Mm-hmm.
point, I realized the type of medications they were giving him. And I had a fit about it, but they still put me out the yard. That's another reason why I called down there. So after I made that call and they brought me back in there, I sat with my son till 3:33 exactly. 3:33 in the emergency room with him. My family was outside the whole time. I had several family members outside the whole time waiting for me in cars and so on. So from 5 o'clock all the way to 3 in the morning, we were all at the emergency room. But I did want to go let them know what was going on because so I left out, right? Remember, I told you there were no outlets in there, and I need to set and give them my phone to charge and just let them know what was going on. Everybody that goes to that emergency room have to be buzzed back, and you have to call and get approval and all of that, right? So
Right.
I left out, and when I got ready to go back, I was talking to the front desk. I said, "Okay, I want to go back in there now." Now, mind you, when I left out the room to go with my son, I told the care center, she's sitting literally at the door like a guard. I said, "I'm going to the front. I have family members outside. I will be right back." That's what I told her. And I left out. Dimitri had been asleep from from the time I got back in there all the way to the time I left. He was literally like sleeping, right? And I let him sleep because he had been like heart rate and racing and sick. I let him rest because he hadn't rested. But in my mind, I knew it was a medication that they were giving him because they lied about what they were giving him. Now, I got ready to be buzzed back in. I say to the front desk lady, I said, "Okay, I'm ready to go back." She makes a call. "Well, let me check." Right? She checked. She told me he was gone.
Ah. And so they moved him without telling you when you
They
stepped
moved
out.
him. They moved
And
him. They,
that's when they moved to the Wyman Gordon Pavilion. Now, did they let you in that pavilion to see him, or did they just say, "Okay, you
no,
gotta go"?
no. They told me they kept saying, "Well, that we're not honoring your power of attorney unless you can go get a copy of it for me." Then he's 32. He makes his own decisions. That's what they told me. I said, "I don't have no problem. I can go get it out, print it for you. It's no problem." I said, "But in the meantime, you just kidnapped my son." I said, "You just took away all full control I have over my loved one." I said, "You just
Yeah.
disregarded and refused my rights as a power of attorney." And that's what I told them. And they basically said, "We don't care. And unless you
Hmm.
can give me a printed copy of the POA, we don't care." Now, let me tell you all this. My
So
son, since he was born, my children, since they were born, were under University of Chicago healthcare. That's their doctor's work. So as you all
Mhm.
know, if you go to a doctor every year, you go to a doctor, you sign a new form, right, for the beginning of the year. So my
Mhm.
son's information is in that database. They use Epic. I used to work for them as well. And I know that database can be accessed from all their locations. They have one database. So
Mm.
I said, "You all have my son's power of attorney for years, each year." And
Mm.
and let me say this: Friday afternoon, or was it Thursday? It was Friday afternoon. I had actually emailed the people that they stated were his case managers and so on, right? So even
Mm.
Friday afternoon, they had in database. But at that time, when they asked me about that information, I was telling them my son had been in that system, so they can even look it up in the system to see that he was actually in there all those years. They said they didn't see him in a database at all.
Yeah, and that's weird. Why would they say that? That I would be suspicious that that's a lie then too. And then, but why would you lie? It just doesn't
Lie,
add up. It doesn't add up,
lie.
especially if he's been a patient in that system, University of Chicago system, for so many years. Like you said, they have his information. It's so strange, very very strange. Now, I mean, did you get a sense like is this some sort of insurance fraud that they're doing to get the patients numbers up so they can get paid, or like I'm trying to figure out a motivation. If everything you're saying is true, it's like, okay, what is their motivation here? It just seems so outlandish, that they would do this.
Well, let me tell you what I thought at the time, but then I'm going to tell you what I realized is going on. What I thought at the time, My thinking is a little bit abstract when I see things like this. It's a little bit out of the box because I don't think normally the way a lot of people would think, especially having a healthcare experience and a little bit of knowledge of some of the things that are actually going on that people refuse to see. So at the time, I'm like, they either want bodies. The University of Chicago is known for experimenting, by the way. They ask you about experimental treatments and so on. So that I do know, right? And so I said they either the way they did things, they basically kidnapped my son. They want bodies for experiment to put into their programs and so on. So that is the way I was thinking at the time. This has been 3 days since they kidnapped my son and held him against his will at Wyman Gordon. So now I know for sure that's what happened. And when I, in hindsight, going back and looking at how they drugged him up, how they pushed me out, how they wouldn't honor my power of attorney. They took away all of his human rights, all of my human rights, all of the rights that you would have as a patient, and refuse everything that they put so many obstacles in my way and still are, and they're not honoring anything they say. If they told me I needed to get a document signed, or submit a POA, which I did. Then they say, oh, we want a printed copy. Oh, we don't care about that. Oh, he's a sir. So every obstacle they could, and they still are putting away. Now I realize all they really want is a body. It's confirmed for me. Now, first from Thursday till Sunday. Sunday was the first time I saw my son's face. Friday, I went to that facility, not in agreement of what was done, because I said I was so upset. I took the time to start making calls, doing everything I could to try to see if I can get someone to come out to that facility and meet me, because they basically kidnapped my son. So me making calls, trying to get law enforcement and so on. Because it happened to Harvey, I called Harvey police, because I went back over there on Friday, the next day, well, actually later on that evening. And I called the Harvey police, because when I went back over to Wyman and Gordon, I tried to take my son some things just to see if they would respond to me. That was around 5 in the evening as well. When I went and rang the doorbell, right, because everything is like you can't just walk in there. I rang the doorbell. I had some clothes with me, and I said, I'm bringing this things for my son. They said, oh, he's over at the hospital in the ER. Somebody kind of slipped up and said he's in a wheelchair. He's over in the hospital. That alarmed me. Why is my son in a wheelchair?
Oh yeah, so he wasn't. So then he wasn't in the Wyman Gordon Pavilion, supposedly.
No,
they said
no, not on Friday.
Oh,
listen, I went over to when I went. This was Friday evening, mind you all. If you all were over there in Harvey, they had a lot of police cars and everything going over there on Friday. They said that it was a shootout. I don't know if it was in a hospital or something happened. Yeah, yeah. So it was some police officers, security guards standing at the door, and they wouldn't let anybody in. I explained to them, to the one that wouldn't let anybody in, they basically had the doors closed. And I told him what happened, and he went and checked with someone and asked me about a POA and all of that, and they let me back. I got in the front desk and I said, my son is at Wyman Gordon. They said that he's over here. Why is he in a wheelchair, and why is he here? And I need to see my son. Oh, he's not here anymore. He's over at Wyman Gordon. I just walked in there.
Right. Like, how could they not know where a patient is? That's not a good sign.
They spun me around for 3 hours like that. And I knew what was happening, but I was not leaving.
Oh, you think they were trying to just frustrate you so you would leave? You just go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And every time they told me that he was at the hospital, at the ER, I went over there. And every time they told me I was at Wyman Gordon, I went back over there and run a doorbell. For 3 hours, they spun me around. I told you all it was 5 o'clock. It was 9 o'clock by the time I said, forget it. I called WGN News, and then they gave me some suggestions. I said, because I'm getting ready to file a missing person report. I have not seen my son's face, and I told them what happened. WGN News said, I can't do anything right now, but if something develops further, give us a call, right? So I call Harvey police. A Harvey police officer comes over, and I explained to him what happened. And he goes, well, And he asked me about a power of attorney. Everybody's asking about this power of attorney. I also want to mention that every time someone asks me about a power of attorney, I said, you all are requiring this document from me, but you all are not following any rules yourself. You all are
Right, right.
refusing all patients' right, but you all require something from me, but you all are not following human rights, PO, power of attorney, none of that. But you are requiring this document from me and using it as an obstacle and leverage. And that's what I told him.
Yeah, and I don't think you should. I think you can file a missing persons report. You could always file a police report. All you need is basic identification. But I was going to say, even a missing persons report, it should not require a power of attorney.
Exactly. So the police officer didn't do it. I can tell you all that.
That's the first thing I was going to say. Did Harvey police help? I haven't had good experiences with Harvey police typically, but I was hoping maybe, okay, were they going to do the right thing? So what did they say to you?
So the police officer said, well, you know what? I'm going to go in there and check for you, and I'm going to come back out and tell you. When he came back out, the look on his face was different from what came out his mouth. He had this sour look on his face, but he told me everything was okay. I saw, and so he said, the way he said it was, I saw your son. I checked his ID bracelet. That's all he said. I said, listen, I don't care. I don't believe you. I said, I told him everything that happened. I said, at this point, I said, God forbid my son could be landing there dead. And I just said it like that, right? I don't claim anything. I have a lot of faith. I'm a spiritual woman. I said, but the way they've done things, I don't believe you and I don't believe them. I want to file a report anyway because of how things was done. We're done. That's what I told him. Right. Well, there's no missing person and I'm not filing the report. That's what he told me.
It's just crazy the whole time. It's like, what is the problem with letting you see your relative? I don't understand the, like the secrecy. So that is just, it's crazy. And it's what's even more interesting to me is that, as you said, as you've spoken up, and we saw at the press conference today, is that you guys have said then now there are other people coming forward sharing similar experiences. And I'm like, yes. Wait a minute, this is like, I can see the hospital buildings from my house, from my front porch. It's like, this stuff has been happening over here, like for how long? Now I'm very curious about this because sometimes, as we've seen with other issues in Harvey and in the Southland, sometimes it takes someone with the courage like yourself to speak up about these things, knowing, yes, there's potential retaliation risks, but also there's a risk to being silent about things too, right? Because like you said, you don't know what's happening to your son. Unfortunately, a lot of people, the fear wins out and they just try to quickly resolve it and run away and never say anything, or they get it settled and they don't say anything. But then now I'm like, oh, wow, this obviously needs attention, because if you're not the only family that's gone through this, what is going on over there?
Well, there's several things. First of all, this has been very upsetting for me, for my son to even receive that type of diagnosis, because he's extremely intelligent. He's a teacher. He plays instruments. He composes music. He leads bands. He's done so many things. And it's not to say that people don't have mental health crises, so I'm not minimizing real crisis, but this was not one of them. And for them to have done things the way they've done things is totally illegal. Medical malpractice. To name, that's just to name a few, right? So of course I'm going to be upset. Now, as far as responding to what you said, Ryan, culturally, a lot of people don't talk about mental. When this happened, and now this coming out, a lot of people are saying they had the same experience at Ingalls. Now people are saying that because before they kept it silent. Now a lot of people come up, hey, my sister, my brother, I did.
Oh, we lost you, Lynn. Oh, and I'm sorry, Beth, I missed your comments. You said, hey, thank you, Beth, for joining us. Tell it, Lynn. You're asking good questions, Ryan. I know. Don't you have so many questions, though, Beth? It's crazy, man. I guess I'm just glad that at least this one family is speaking up. All right, looks like she's back. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. I
I
got cut
know
off.
you were breaking up a little bit anyway, so yes, let's hope that the reception maybe it got better.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, go
So,
right ahead.
so a lot of people are, mhm. Yeah, so a lot of people are saying are responding and say they've had that same experience, or they know someone who've had the same experience. So again, this started Thursday, and it's now what? And so I've probably had like 6, 7 people talk about the same experience at the same facility between the much public Ingalls University of Chicago Hospital and Wyman Gordon. Not any other healthcare system, very specifically that healthcare system.
Yeah, that is so bizarre. And are is anyone else willing to speak up publicly, or are they telling you that they're scared to speak up publicly?
I think a lot of people are I don't know if it's fear, but there's a stigma attached to mental health.
Mm.
And so maybe based also too with the type of job you have, because because of the stigma they have, people feel like if people think that I've gone through a mental health crisis, that it may affect my job. Of course, people are going to think I'm quote unquote crazy, or so there's a lot of stigma attached to it. Now I do want to say this to you. I followed the agenda. I was a crisis interventionist, right? For domestic violence, also being in healthcare and so on. So I followed the agenda that's being pushed in the state of Illinois and across the country, especially Illinois, because we're like the guinea pig for everything new. Basically, they are pushing that mental health agenda. I need to tell you all something, that Friday when I was with that police officer on his radio, the call that I heard was that there was a call and they were saying, yeah, they were calling in some guy who was whatever he was doing on his radio. And they basically said, this is a mental health, non-physical. That was the call from the operator. I was hearing on the police radio. So basically that meant they were taking in this, they wanted to get this individual, bring him in to the hospital under mental health.
Right. Which, I mean, we do have, I mean, especially in Harvey, we have people that you will see on the street that, they probably do have mental health issues, and I worry about them, and I hope they get the care they need. But it's really crazy when someone who's coming in and you're saying he wasn't exhibiting any behaviors of aggression or any, I mean, what was he? Did he have any sort of suicidal, expressions of wanting to hurt himself or others?
No, this is on the clinical side and not on the psychiatric side. So he had more clinical indications than, and he doesn't have a mental health history. He does, and
that's what you're always looking for. Are they a danger to themselves or others? If not,
right.
Your focus should be trying to get them healthy and figuring out whatever issue they have with their health. If you have no indications that they're a harm or they want to harm themselves or others, they're not saying it, they're not being aggressive physically. It wouldn't make any sense to me. But imagine if they're doing that to your son with you there present, you already know a lot. That is concerning in that what are they doing to people who might be coming off the street and they have no advocates? I mean,
no advocates.
They're doing the right thing. But as you said, if they're doing this to your son and he's not showing any signs of harming himself or others, and he has you as an advocate, what about the people that have no family and they have no advocates? So this is very concerning.
It's very concerning. And as I stated to you, now people are saying, like, and the stories that I've heard of, even the 5 or 6 people, this happened 2 years ago, 6 years ago. So it's been happening.
And
like I was saying before,
you gotten reports of this happening before the hospital was sold to University of Chicago, or has it just been since the University of Chicago took it over? That's the other question I have for you. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, Wyman Gordon has been there before and attached to Ingalls Memorial Hospital before it became University of Chicago. Wyman Gordon has always been there. I just found out when I talked to the state of Illinois that that's a private hospital.
Yeah, you said that in the press conference. Now that was interesting. So why do they consider the psych ward a private hospital, but the rest of the hospital is public? I don't understand that.
Well, from what I found out, Wyman Gordon is a private, considered a hospital, a private hospital, right? Independent of Ingalls Memorial University, Chicago.
So the psych ward
Although
is
when you
separate.
look at, yeah, but the employees go back and forth. So you have a public entity receiving public funds, working with
Mhm.
the private hospital. They share the same security. So on top of everything else, there's a lot of, collusion, a lot of confusion, a lot of things that are being done that shouldn't be done.
Mm.
Now, yes. And
So
I do want to say that I've met with the higher administrators, I've
mm,
talked to people at all different levels, I've talked to the therapists, people that have called me, and every time I respond the way they ask me to respond, they still refuse to discharge my son and let him go. My son has
mm.
made statements verbally, which we have recordings, we have documented, where he wants to be released
And
and
why
they
won't why
refuse.
I was gonna say, and what's the response? Okay, so are they telling you anything, or is it silence, or what are they specifically saying or doing?
Well, before this started to get light on it, they were basically telling me he's a certain age, so we don't have to tell you anything. Now that light is being shed on it, they're trying to give me some type of answer, but the response is, oh, we want to make sure before he goes out, he doesn't hurt the public, or, one of those type of things like you just said. But how
Mm,
do you, and so my response is, again, like I've been saying, you take away every right at every different level. You say
mhm,
this person is of age to make his own medical decisions, but you
mhm.
medicate him to where he can't make his decisions. And then you ask him questions and expect a certain reaction that you're recording so you can confirm whatever diagnosis you put on him.
Yeah, it's just so strange that they're doing all of this, and he's still there. Have you been able to see him in person, or at least by phone, since last Thursday?
Um, Before I started making a fuss and before these things started getting unveiled. So he went in there on Thursday. The first time I saw his face was on Sunday. I saw his face because there was they call it family day so the family can come in. Um, so we started really piling in and coming to see him. There was like 25, 30 people there to support my son. The numbers will still continue to get bigger, and we're going to keep on getting louder until he comes up out of there.
Yeah,
We were trying to go by the formalities that they're giving us, but every time we go by the formalities that they're giving us, they still refuse us. They still refuse my son's discharge. So it's going to keep getting louder, and we're going to keep coming back, and the numbers are going to continue to grow. And every law enforcement, we're going to exhaust every effort we can with every law enforcement, every legal enforcement, everything we need to do in order to fight this. And see, unfortunately for them, the exposure is going to come. More and more light is going to be on this because of it.
mhm. And have you heard of any issues of similar to this happening at the main hospital in Hyde Park at all, or no?
No. I've had enough to try to deal with. We're trying to get my son out.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was
But
just,
I mean,
trying to figure out. I'm like, I wonder, what the main owners, now the UFC has owned this hospital for a few years, it's like, well, what are they doing in Hyde Park? Because, okay,
well,
guys, now you're in charge. So even if there was a problem before in Harvey, you own the hospital now. So you can't claim that you don't know what's going on. It's their
oh,
responsibility in Hyde Park.
oh, they know what's going on because very appropriately, I have no problem being able to put together professional emails and letters, and I've done that. And I made sure I
Mhm.
put all the higher administrators on the same email so that everybody can see it. Everybody
Good.
has seen the documents. Everybody has heard. They know about it. They know about it.
Mm. So they've been okay, good. So they've been at least notified in writing, so they can't say that they don't know. Beth says the most important thing is that the guy is released very soon. Exactly. Beth asks, what happens to people with a history of mental health issues? Beth, I don't know. And maybe that's another question that we need to get answered as part of this whole process, What help, Beth asks, what help could an attorney provide? Oh, you were breaking up again.
No, I'm sorry. I want to say something. I met 2 other families, and one of the families, their son came in around the same time my son came in on Thursday, and he's there. I met another lady whose son there has been 3 weeks. The mother has been abused, and things are happening to her son.
No, we lost you again. She must be having some. We've been having some storms tonight, guys. So I'm guessing that might be. Hi, Mikey. Hi, Mikey on TikTok. Thanks for joining us. Simone. Hey. Simone, send me a message on Insta. I'm doing an interview for my live tonight, but tell me what you're studying again, Simone. I forget. How you doing, Simone? Hi, Betty. Okay, we'll try it again. I figured maybe it's the storms or something, but now we can see you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so you said that there was another mom when you went into the ER. There was another mom that's her son got taken in against his will.
Thursday, same time, around the same time from the ER.
Yeah, that's so really bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully today the press conference will, that will help and generate some positive, movements for this. And trying to think, have you reached out at all to the alderman for the 3rd Ward, Delaney Smith, or the mayor of Harvey to possibly see if they would intervene to help?
Well, and if you can hear and you see this, I wanted to actually reach out to and being able to contact the supervisor, because I did reach out to the state police and they gave me some suggestions, because I actually wanted a law enforcement outside of Harvey, because I feel that Harvey is in collusion with them. A lot of those police officers, they actually work for that healthcare system, so I didn't want them there. So I reached out to the state police, and so they gave me some good information, and this said reach out to your higher village officials. So I didn't want to reach out to the chief of police of Harvey. Okay, so I do want to reach politically. One of the highest positions would be like the supervisor, right? Thornton Township Supervisor Napoleon Harris. So if you hear me, I would definitely like to have a conversation with you about this. Far
maybe
as
the county, someone with the county might. I mean, they should have some sort of oversight authority over the hospitals. They should be able to assist.
Well, I'll definitely be reaching out to a lot of the state agencies, the Inspector General's office, the Office of Professional Regulations, Illinois Department of Public Health. So here's the thing: when you go through these situations, a lot, like you said, very important, Ryan. A lot of people don't know how to advocate. A lot of people feel like they're alone in these situations, and then they have some type of stigma and embarrassment related to it. So sometimes they do nothing, they're heartbroken, and their loved ones stay in this system for the rest of their lives. And I refuse to let my son be a product of something he shouldn't even have a diagnosis.
Right.
And then I refuse to allow this to happen to my son. My heart is grieving and my soul is burning.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And we saw your other 2 sons were there at the press conference today as well. And then other people came out to support. So obviously, like you said, you're not going to give up until you get answers till he gets released. But even once, so the first step is, I would imagine you obviously want him to be released. But I mean, they've opened this huge can of worms now, because now they're going to have to answer for this. I mean, you can't just do this to people and then expect them to go away.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
Unfortunately for them, I don't like to say it like this because I'm very compassionate about health care. And if I was pulled into a situation where it wasn't my son, but someone else, and I had to help them, I would still have the same compassion. Right? I would still have the same compassion because that's just me. And if it was the same situation in a different person, I would still be trying to advocate for them and help them. And guess what? And here's the thing that would still be remaining the same is that if you decide to take these type of actions and do people like this, now granted, if a person really is having real mental health crisis, if they have real psychosis or psychiatric problems, and your care is valid and correct, then that will be great. But when you are operating systematically in the ways that you are, and you're integrating people into a system based on lies, false diagnosis, just to have bodies for experiments and for your agenda, that's wrong. And even if you had good techniques and treatments and all of that, but you're still operating in a duality like that, you're going to get questioned. Things are going to get unveiled because one day somebody is going to speak up.
Right. Yeah. Because I was going to say, I mean, at some point, did they think, no one was going to ask questions? I mean, yeah, we need more transparency on this, as we do on like 90% of the rest of what happens in Harvey. We always have so much the opposite of transparency. That everything's in the dark. It's very opaque.
Yeah, I mean, there was an individual, and I'm not going to say any names. If she said she experienced the same thing, and of course, I mean, she mentioned it, and now she's talking about it more because this has come out. I'm pretty sure other people had the same experiences, but how far was she able to advocate for herself other than I got out?
Right. That would be my concern. Exactly. Because if we get people, out, but then we don't get answers, then how many other people will be caught in the same situation? And then we're not stopping the cycle of harm.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
I want my son out. I want my son out.
Yes.
And you know what? I don't have any thoughts about caring about them. I really don't. I want my son out. I didn't start off this to hurt anybody. I didn't start off this to have any type of agenda. But when you mess with somebody I love, and you do things to them in an improper manner, and how you operate is just wrong and incorrect and erroneous, and there's collusion and secrecy and conflict, and you just refuse to honor what's legally sound and morally sound, all that just goes out the window, then you just deserve what you get.
Right. Yeah. Because it sounds like, you're giving them so many opportunities to do the right thing here. So I really hope that that we hear something from the hospital soon, because otherwise this is only going to get worse for everyone involved. So let's hope that cooler minds prevail and that they do the right thing. But even if they do at this point, just from what has happened, we need a lot of answers here. So, but first and foremost, yes, we're going to try to keep a spotlight in this. I'm going to share, I did the clip that I just made. So I'll share that on social media just so people know what's going on. And then certainly feel free you guys can always find me at ryansgaychicago.com. Reach out. All my contact information is there. If you have any information or anything that would help to figure out how to get Dimitri out, or if you have experiences, if you know anybody in the Ingalls University Chicago healthcare system, because obviously, as we're discovering, this is a big issue. It's more than just this one case, but the priority is certainly making sure that Dimitri gets out and he's safe. But yeah, feel free to reach out. All my contact info is there, and I know Amir's working hard on it as well. And thank you for coming on. And we're so sorry that you have to go through this, but at least you know that you're not alone, and that there are other people like myself that are concerned. And we're like, oh no, wait, what's happening? Like this is not right. We need to get this resolved.
Ryan, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for all your assistance and helping me with this. There's different types of advocating we can do in this situation. So your part to help me bring light into this, I appreciate you. I appreciate Amir Shakur for that. I thank you for all of the people that came out supporting, and for all of you that, tentatively will support,
Yeah. And Beth had a quick question too. I don't know if I mentioned, but she was just asking about like if maybe legal help, if an attorney could help. But I don't know if you were able to find anyone, or if you had anything to add about that. And Beth,
I've been reaching out, and I'm still looking. So if your attorneys out there, you know anybody, please send them my way. I don't like right now it's just, finding an attorney who will take on the case. I feel like a lot of attorneys want to take on cases they're going to get paid for right away. And that's really what I'm getting the pushback from, or the resistance from. But if you all know somebody who knows about this case, please, some legal representation, a litigator, I need to speak to them. You can send them my way.
Okay, definitely. No, that's great. Yeah, I was gonna say this would be, I'm guessing, could this be like a malpractice attorney or something? See, I thought that they got paid well for that. I don't know what they consider, but
definitely malpractice. These are some big healthcare systems. We have a big publicly funded institution that's been around a long time. You have a private institution that's been around a long time. So I'm pretty sure it's something very financially, something that could come from it, so for an attorney, really, it's not about anything like that for me, because I didn't jump into it for this. My son's life is at risk. I want him out of there. That's what's important for me.
Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely. Well, no, thank you again. Thanks for joining us, Lynn. And to everybody else, yeah, I think that's about, hold on, let me see if there's anything else big that I know of going on this week or tomorrow, or if anyone's interested, tomorrow the Harvey Neighborhood Network is having a virtual meeting about the beautification things. I think that's about it. I'm also going to a training, an activist, anti-authoritarian, dealing with all the corruption and in various levels of government. There's going to be a training, but it's open to the public at 2229 South Halstead, at SEIU Healthcare's building, actually, speaking of healthcare. So that will be Thursday night, 5:30 to 8. So if anybody's interested in that, it's training basically on organizing to deal with issues like this, any sort of where you're pushing for systemic change. So that'll be Thursday night if anyone's interested. But otherwise, that is it for me tonight. Thank you, Ms. Lynn.
Good night. Thank you all. Be blessed. Have a great one. Be blessed. Thank you.
Good night. And thank you all again for joining us. Thanks, Beth and Ramona, for being there. Amir. I'll post that video. I'll share it. So please be sure to share it as well in all your circles and so on social media. And it seems like this should be a very easy situation to resolve. So let's just do our part, even if it's just sharing something on social media or sending an email, to someone at Ingalls or whatever. Okay, guys, have a great night. Excuse me, and we'll talk soon. Bonne nuit.